Okay, we're good.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Waukee, the Ottawa, and Mississaugas people. I would like to acknowledge that we have a new employee here today, and I want to thank Chris Towns for being the new finance administrator, and he's with us starting tonight. I think everybody has had a chance to meet him. So I call this meeting to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council Township of North Huron hereby receives the agenda for November 7th, 2022 council meeting as presented. Do I have a mover? I have Anita moving, and I have Rick seconding. All in favor? Carries. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we shall move on. This, public comments. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to speak to an item on the business on the agenda for 2 minutes per person. Did you want to speak, Mayor? Just come up and give us your name and go ahead.
Rachel King with the Blythe Festival. Blythe Festival would like to express our gratitude to Dave Cook, whose retirement you are honoring this evening. Dave has been a longtime champion of the Village of Blythe and a tremendous supporter of and believer in Blythe Festival's continued growth of the harvest stage at the Blythe campgrounds over the past 2 years. We're grateful for Dave's tireless efforts and willingness to work as a team to bring dreams into reality. Bringing a theater season together every year takes a village, as they say, and Dave has been an invaluable member of that village team. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Dave. On a separate note, with regard to tonight's conversation about the township parking bylaw, Blythe Festival completed the Economic Development Department survey, but has not had an opportunity to consult directly with the township staff since the September 19th council meeting. Further to council's last discussion of this matter, it's important that more context be laid. At the last meeting discussing the proposed bylaw, Blythe Festival raised concern about the 2-hour limit on both sides of Queen Street and Blythe, Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the economic impact of actively discouraging theater patrons from staying in town and engaging with the shops and eating establishments Blythe has to offer. At the time, council discussed that if there was a matinee, the parking question might be an issue. It should be noted that in 2019, 50% of performances each week in the summer season were matinees, with audiences of up to 379 in attendance in the afternoons, 3 days a week. In reality, that was 11,592 people. As we continue to rebuild out of the pandemic, the 2023 season is poised to have indoor Memorial Hall matinee performances at least 5 days a week, all of which are impacted by the proposed bylaw being considered tonight. We recognize that the current council is finishing their terms and wish to tie up loose ends, and snow season is coming. But this particular bylaw is too important to the well-being of the Village of Blythe to be passed without further dedicated consideration of the impacts. Blythe Festival continues to advocate for a 4-hour limit, at least from June 1st to October 15th annually. Thank you for your time tonight and your service to the Township of North Huron these past 4 years.
Thank you very kindly. Okay, we're going to move on to consent agenda that the Council Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent agendas 5.1.1 to 5.1.2, and further the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.3 to 5.3.4 for information purposes. Before I call the motion, is there anyone that would like to pull anything out and have a conversation? We'll start with Anita, I believe, and then Chris.
Yes, I have some, thank you, Reeve Bailey, concerns with 5.2.2, 5.2.3, and 5.3.1. They're all regarding the More Homes Built Faster Act and the timeline that is involved with this. On March 30th, Bill 109 was introduced, and it was passed and had royal assent on April the 14th. That is 2 weeks. 2 weeks to give our comments or anything like this. I think the acts are not clear enough. There is a lot of information in there that needs more explanation. And the way I read it, and maybe our planner or somebody else can give some explanation to that, it is taking away funds from especially the smaller municipalities. It's decided by people in the major cities, and they don't have any idea what the consequences will be for small municipalities. So I don't know if we could do anything about it, because the timeline is so very, very short to give comments. But it is an act that is just forced on us. We do everything with our official plans, with our planning, with everything to work with contractors and residents and work towards the housing shortage and the labor shortage, and then the provincial government steps up and just introduces a new act that comes into force in a month or something like that. So yeah, I'm really concerned about that, and I don't know if there's anything we can do it. I think it's just the provincial government overriding all local decisions and planning.
Chris, were you on the same line?
No.
Okay, I want to talk to this one. Yes, at county, we talked about this. My understanding is they're going to put in place a system where we literally have to give back the building development fees, which we need to put the water and sewer in the ground to make everything work. This is where we get our money to make it work, especially when we're putting in the new subdivision. So I totally agree with Anita that we should be sending a letter to the county and to the province and to whoever else we can, saying that we're just not too happy about the provincial government cutting our funding at a local level. If they want to cut funding, they got billions of dollars of their own they can play with. So I see this as actually as a disgrace as far as if you're going to put a motion forward at a provincial level. Dwayne, I'm not sure if you have any more follow, or maybe Carson, but that is my understanding what's going on, and we did talk about it at the county level, and I believe it's going to come back to the municipal level at a little later date. My concern, again, my last concern would be timing. Do we have time, or should we be forwarding a letter saying how discomforted we are about this happening?
We would, yeah, through your worship, to answer Councilor Van Hittersum's question about whether there's something that can be done, we can certainly, if council is desirous, we can pull that from the consent agenda and pass a motion that would go off to the province in time, speaking to the lack of consideration for small rural municipalities and that the legislation's impact.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you need a mover for that, or?
Yeah, so we'll
Yes.
pull that from the consent agenda, and we'll deal with that separately after we
Okay.
deal with the consent, the
Yep.
rest of the consent agenda items.
Christopher?
Thank you, Reeve. This is 5.3.4. This is regarding, well, it's a letter that the municipality of Huron Shores has constructed, and it's got to do with the power given to mayors. They do realize, well, we all do, that it's more for the Toronto, the big centers, but it still affects all municipalities, about giving the mayors the right to just pass a budget as they see fit. And, you know, as a counselor, then if that happened, then I would go, why am I here?
Yeah.
So I'd really like it if we could write up a letter that would support what their endeavor is, and what the municipality of Huron Shores endeavor letter is trying to make known to the province and give them support.
And I would totally agree with you, because if you're going to pass stuff like that, why are the rest of you six sitting here? Just absolutely again ridiculous.
Yep.
I'm not sure where the world's going, but not in a place we should be. Did anybody else want to speak to that? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I mean, I have been very actively looking at how these two laws would be perceived at the lower rural municipality level, in the sense of trying to understand how, in a context of a discussion, that would even happen at a local council table. I mean, you want to talk about a heated conversation. You could have a heated conversation, and then a Reeve just says, or a mayor just says, well, whatever the conversation is, I don't necessarily disagree with either one of yous, and I'm going to make my own decision. And I mean, I don't know how that would play out in a local government level. I know, as everybody here has indicated, you're an elected official, no different than the reeve or no different than the mayor. So my concern is exactly the same. I don't know how logistically that works in a democratic society. The one thing I do say is, when it comes to the bill, as Councillor Van Hittersum had mentioned, my concern is not necessarily with the act. My concern is the fact that the timelines in which they are giving small and rural municipalities an opportunity to have these things, zoning bylaw amendments passed and those things, if it's within the guidelines of that, we can maintain a swifter process in getting those things signed and sealed and delivered for ratepayers and taxpayers, then I don't have a disagreement about it. I mean, arguably what that indicates to me is they don't want municipalities to drag these things on 6-8 months when we need houses built today. So do I disagree with it? No, in context. However, they have to recognize that, as municipalities of our size, it isn't as easy as just saying, oh, ratepayer, come to our office, we'll make this all work in a matter of an afternoon, and let's have lunch, and let's sign this off tomorrow. That doesn't work in small and rural Ontario. And I think, honestly, when we talk about some of these laws, I don't think they've fully been vetted by the rural lens in the sense of where Huron County sits. And not just Huron County, but all small and rural municipalities. And it would be interesting to see, as the new council comes in, what Roma and what AMO has to say about these two laws, because I think they will be very adamant about where they see these laws as being a hindrance to democracy in small and rural Ontario.
Okay, so I believe I have a mover and a seconder. Is there anybody want to bring anything else out? And then we're going to change the,
Yeah, you don't have a mover or a seconder yet, but the motion, we will amend it. So it would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent items 5.1.1 to 5.1.2, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.3 to 5.3.3, exclusive of 5.3.1 for information.
I will move that, Reeve.
have a mover, and Rick is going to second. All in favor? Carries. Did you want to deal with the other two?
Yep, so then your second motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter to the Province of Ontario expressing the Township of North Huron's concerns with the lack of public consultation and the negative impact that Bill 23, More Homes Built Faster Act, will have on small rural municipalities.
Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving, I have Anita seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you.
Just bear with me as I catch up here. And then your final motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support to the municipality of Huron Shores regarding opposition to Bill 3, Strong Mayors Building Homes Act.
Do I have a mover? Paul moves again. I have Chris seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.1 is a presentation for Dave Cook, manager of the rec facilities, who could not be here with us tonight. We would like to recognize and congratulate Dave Cook for his retirement from Recreation Facilities Manager of North Huron's Recreation Department. He previously worked for the Village of Blythe starting in 1988, and he joined North Huron in amalgamation in 2000 for a total of 35 years of service. We thank Dave for his dedication to Blythe and North Huron, and we wish him all the happiest and healthiest retirement. Okay. Reports. Next, we have 7.1.1 is Hannah with the consent application for Van, I will never even
Van
attempt.
Nuy.
What's that?
Van Nuy.
Van Nuy, and Jim and Alexa Dorr. Is she here?
Yep.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm just going to bring up my presentation. Well, thank you for having me this evening, Council. So as noted, this is for consent application C89 2022. So the subject lands are located along Alfred Street West in Wingham. The properties are designated residential and zoned residential medium density. The purpose of this severance is to sever a portion of the neighboring property and merge it with another neighboring property to enlarge it. So the lands are being removed from the property that's shown in the blue, and they are proposed to be severed and transferred to the property that's shown in yellow. Both the subject properties contain existing dwellings and accessory structures. The following includes the severance sketches provided by the applicant, and just showing the dimensions of the area to be severed and merged. The intent of the severance is to provide more room for the landowner of the yellow parcel to construct an accessory building for their property. In terms of comments, there were no public comments received at this time. Township staff did provide comments of no concern. The Maitland Valley Conservation Authority did provide correspondence as included in the agenda, and they had no concerns. The source water protection officials did issue a land use notice prior to the application being submitted, so their comments have been addressed. In terms of the policy review, the North Huron official plan does permit these types of severances for lot additions, provided it meets the zoning bylaw minimum standards, of which this severance application does. In terms of the conditions, similar to the file that we had a few weeks ago, because the subject lands to be enlarged were previously subject to a severance, a cancellation certificate for that will be required, and confirmation of the severed parcel merging with the existing parcel to enlarge it is required as a condition. Otherwise, the recommended conditions are standard. In terms of the recommendation, it is recommended that the consent application be approved with the attached conditions, which again are shown again on the screen for reference, so I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Does council have any questions? I do not see any hands going up. So therefore, consent applicant report file C098-2022, applicant owner Colin Van Genesum, Jim and Alexador, property description plan 410 part lot 457, 458, 465, and 466, part lane 22R, 1413, part 1 and 2, Wingham Ward, Township of North Huron, 75 Alfred Street West. That the council in the Township of North Huron hereby recommend approval for consent application file number C089-2022, applicant owner Colin Van Genesum and Jim and Alexador. Property description, again, 410 part lot 457, 458, 465, 466, part lane 22R, 1413, part 1 and 2, Wingham Ward, Township of North Huron, 75 Alfred Street, with the conditions set out by the Huron County Planning and Development Report presented by Hannah Hallman, planner at the November 7th, 2022 council meeting. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving. I have Kevin seconding. All in favor? Carries.
Thanks.
Thank you very kindly. Okay. Moving on to 7.2 Finance Department, we have nothing tonight. 7.3 Rec and Community Service Department, we have nothing tonight. 7.3.1 is CC-2022 02 Renewal of Child Care Service Provider Agreement with Huron County. Director Lutenberg is here to answer any questions, should there be any questions. And if I'm not seeing any questions, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I did acknowledge in the report where it does indicate that that these agreements are not going to have a negative impact to the operating budget. My concern has there been adequate detail provided by the province or the federal government, or both, to both Huron County and to the township, acknowledging how a $10 a day childcare is going to be associated to publicly owned, municipally owned daycares. Because I haven't seen anything, and but again, I just would be questioned if we have any more data than we've had before.
Through you, your worship, there's continuous data that's coming, or correspondence that's coming out from the county, or from the province through the county. It is still unclear as to what exactly we are going to get each budget year, because they're making changes as they're going. But we're going forward on the basis that we are going to be funded based on full capacity rather than registrations. So there will be funding that we'll be receiving even though the children may not be there due to our staffing situation.
So just as a follow-up, Reeve, my guess, or the way that is telling me is the funding formula is being amended, is basically what you're telling me in the sense of how they're calculating how they're going to provide that funding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just going to add to that, because Trevor, you weren't here for the last meeting when we had the budget meeting, we had this conversation. The situation lies that North Huron is responsible for the financing, all the financing of the daycare. But because we receive funding from the provincial government handed down to us through the county, everybody gets to use the daycare. So we have, and we should have, children from every municipality around. And somebody could live in Goderich and put their child here and work all day at the hospital, pick the child up home. So everybody all the way around gets to use our daycare, which I understand. The question was raised at the last meeting. I said, well, what if we had to put a roof on there on a minute's notice and we had to spend $100,000 on a roof? It is not budgeted. It is not being taken care of, and it's the ratepayers of North Huron that foot the bill. Nobody else, but 50% of the children could be from anywhere but North Huron. So as everybody knows, I'm in favor of the daycare. My concern is, here we go again, because they helped us build it. Everybody got together and built it, but it comes down to the township of North Huron footing the bill. And I don't see that as a proper way of doing business, unless we were to budget every year for a new roof, whether we used it or not, and got the money for it, which that's not going to happen either. So anyway, I just want to put that red flag up there. Anyone else have anything to say? Go ahead, Chris.
I guess we can just look at this document as fluid. And it's kind of scary because we don't know where it's headed, but we just need to have faith that, well, between the feds and the province, the $10 a day deal will work. And we won't be negatively affected by it.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I just want to comment. I mean, if the formula is exactly as the director has indicated, which that's the intention, is you're going to be funded for a full daycare, regardless of how many spaces you can have. If you've licensed for a full daycare and you're funded by the full daycare, then we're in a better shape, because ultimately, if we don't have the staff in order to do that, we are in essence getting more money for the already people who are there to help things like these unexpected costs that we would maybe run into. The concern, though, is if they fund it that way, and then all of a sudden there's this reconciliation at the end of a year or whatever that says, oh, by the way, you were only 50% capacity because of staffing issues, we're going to take some of that funding back. That's when a conversation or an issue becomes a real issue from municipalities, because they budget based on our assumption or what we think we're going to get. And really, the unknown is a real concern for most municipalities, because, again, most municipalities don't have a whole lot of extra revenue streams to tie into. So I think that is the biggest concern from my perspective, and that's why I know this is a fluid conversation, But I think this advocacy to the province and the federal government that says, this is great. And I mean, if that is the formula, thank you very much. But don't tell us this formula, we do all this budgeting, and then you come at the 98th hour and change how you're going to give it to us. And I think that's really the concerns from small and rural municipalities and public sector-owned businesses, because we don't have the additional revenue streams that we can just go and tack on, an extra bill without getting questioned or getting issued about where it is. And I mean, staffing is going to be a consistent level for the next 4 years, no matter what, because there is a shortage of ECs, as we are indicating, as we know about from a long-standing, as well as what's going on in the province right now. So I think we have to recognize that the more information that we can get, the more advocacy that we've got to maintain that to the federal and provincial governments that says, if you're going to make this decision, you better stay firm for 3 to 5 years, because that's how we're planning. We're not planning month over month.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone. Do I have a mover second? Oh, go ahead, Vicky.
Sorry, Your Worship. Just to comment on this, I share your concerns, Deputy Reeve Sipe, and based on those concerns, like, we're moving forward with a budget that's based on our current funding of childcare and the daycare facility. In terms of it, as the funding comes in next year, then we'll use that to offset any kind of shortfall. As council is aware, we usually run about a $65,000 to $70,000 deficit, and that is for the cost of the building that's over there. So we are kind of going forward with this kind of blindly, based on, though, the information they've given us, that it will be based on the capacity of the center and the programs, not just based on registration. And the intent of this funding is to replace the parents' portion as well, but in terms of being funded at full capacity, that's what's kind of hard for us to kind of figure out at this point. So when council sees a budget coming forward, we, because of the timelines that are involved, we're going to budget as we would normally budget. We've also been told that this is an additional operating grant. This will not affect any of our funding that we already receive from the province through the county. So that is the other reason why we're looking at this and kind of basing it that we're going to be in a better position. And as indicated at the last meeting, we do receive capital funding from them to do different improvements, make different improvements to the building. So, it could be HVAC units, it could be a furnace, it could be flooring, it could be a roof or a portion of the cost of a roof. But it's that's without this new funding for universal childcare. They've been providing that all along.
Do I have a mover and seconder?
No, you still need one, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, concerns, comments? Not seeing any. Thank you, Vicky. Do I have a mover? Trevor moves. Seconder, please. Anita seconds. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 7.3.2, and this is the lease agreement for the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority for the Turnberry Floodplain Conservation Area. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments? Go ahead to Kevin.
Through you, Reeve. At a previous council meeting, we had discussions about property outside of the municipalities' borders, and whether funding for those properties should go on, as we've had that with the airport and such. And I just wonder if is any movement forward in finding suitable grounds in North Huron has moved any further forward for leasing. I believe this is for the soccer that's played. Whether there's been any movement towards finding a property in North Huron.
Thank you. Vicki, before I give it over to you, I'm just going to comment on that. So this one, as you know, I've talked about this over and over and over again, so I'm going to do the whole 4 years. So the land we're talking about is in Morris Turnberry, and Morris Turnberry refuses to cut it. Everybody in every area has soccer players. It is a good field to play soccer in. So the Maitland Valley, of course, are not going to pay to cut it either. So again, here we fall back on North Huron. So North Huron does cut the grass owned by the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority in the township of Morris Turnberry. I'm not going into discussions about how much it costs, because that was left and right and everywhere in between, but yes, we do. Moving forward with the Hutton Height project, what we're going to do is we're going to have soccer fields. Our intention is to have soccer fields out there, because when we put the development in, which for the town is 130 houses, I believe John's going to have 100, and then, of course, Bellman's 200. So you're into about 300 or 400 houses out there. So we have to have park, so in lieu of park. So you're sitting in a situation where we know we're going to put a park in Hutton Heights, and the plan moving forward was put a soccer field or two out there, because we have to do it anyway, and then have our staff stay in North Huron and go out to Hutton Heights and cut the grass out there. So at the last time we renewed this, we only renewed this for 1 year, thinking we'd be further along with our development. Unfortunately, COVID has hit. We're still moving along, don't get me wrong, everything's fine. So that's why we find ourselves in this turmoil again, because other people in other places aren't doing it. So everybody uses a soccer field, including our own children, so we have continued. But yes, in my mind, when we have our own soccer fields in North Huron at the Hutton Heights Park, we should no longer be cutting grass in Morris Turnberry. If they don't want to cut it, that's Morris Turnberry. They're a separate. I don't cut my neighbor's grass. I cut my own. I believe, Vicki, you wanted to speak to that.
Through you, Your Worship, that's actually what I was going to indicate, was that we are looking at the Hutton Heights subdivision for the development of a soccer field to pull the service inside the boundaries of the municipality.
So go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that piece of property that is being utilized by a committee or an association that we offer that service. So North Huron, through the Wingham Soccer Association, offers soccer to not necessarily Wingham residents, but Morris Turnberry residents, Goddard residents, whoever wants to sign up. So the intention is that the only reason why that association is even in existence is because that was the field in which we had a lot of the services being offered at that particular point. I can honestly guarantee you, if we had enough soccer fields in the township of North Huron, we wouldn't be using Galbraith Park. But we don't. And that's the only reason why we have that association today, and that's why we've continued to have that association today. Again, these associations with these associations need to be considered to be understand about what the costs associated to those things are, and those need to be charged accordingly. I mean, if North Huron has a cost, then those costs should be passed on to for what the actual utilization or the need of that facility is. We recognize, and I think everybody has recognized, is that recreation facilities are never going to profit. They have never profited, and nor should they ever try to profit. Because if you're going to try to profit an arena or a soccer pitch, you might as well put the hourly rate up to about $3,000 an hour. So we have to recognize that, but understand that part of being a recreation facility is you have to have those abilities, and those are the things that bring people here. If you don't have them, you would be worse off.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Has staff ventured into how much it would cost to build a soccer field, because it is thousands and thousands of dollars. So I think it would be nice for council to know what we're up against, first of all. And my other point is, and I agree, out there, Hutton would be a great spot for something, yes. And the other thought is, we're seeing from all our recreation, it's a joint effort of all families, all kids from all over the darn place to make it work, or else we don't have enough kids or families in North Huron to make whatever that particular sports event is. So it's vitally important that, I understand what you're saying, I do. But it's vital to know also that it takes a group, kids everywhere to make it work. And so that's my thought. I have no trouble with renewing it and keeping Galbraith going until we have a substitute, period.
So I'm just going to ask if council's okay. So I totally agree with that, and that's why instead of doing a 5-year or a 3-year plan, we were doing a 1 year at a time, because when we have our own fields up and going, our staff should be in our own fields, and if they want to keep those fields going, that would be the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, or the township it sits in should have their people, their staff, and everything down there doing that. At the same time, I totally agree with that. My question to staff is, we did a 1-year renewal last time. Now I see it's a 3-year renewal. Is this suggesting that we're slowing down on Hutton Heights or any developments, or is this just, I mean, it's not much paperwork to renew this every year as we move along, or do you feel it's just better to put this out of the way for 3 years?
No, so your worship, in terms of the development of Hutton Heights is proceeding, and is proceeding expeditiously in terms of phase 1 of the development has been complete in terms of infrastructure, and we're proceeding with phase 2 of the development. But these things take time in terms of development projects. So in addition to the development project, and perhaps touching on Councillor Faulkner's comment in terms of, and I guess as well touching on Councillor Palmer's comment in terms of, you know, there's some additional research that as staff we need to undertake and look at to bring forward a report with a recommendation to council in terms of how we move forward. Costs, for example, of constructing it is certainly a consideration. The other consideration as well is in terms of ensuring that, you know, recreational facilities or services are available for individuals in that area, because as you've indicated, you know, on the basis that the development in that area, if everything goes as in being envisioned, there will be significant development in that area, and those residents, you know, will need recreational services.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Kevin, and then Paul.
Well, thank you through your, just a clarification, the soccer fields that are being used by the residents around the south end of the township, township doesn't pay any money towards those upkeeps of those soccer fields and grass cutting in another municipality. I was just making the comment that it works there. My thought process was as if the organization needed a field in another municipality, as they do in the southern part, why are the two not the same?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we paying for one and not paying for the other, is what was my questioning.
Yeah. Thank you for clarification. Paul?
Yeah, yes, through you, Reeve. I'm for signing up for another 3 years, just for the fact that it takes a year, like when you make your pitch, it takes over a year to let it settle. You have to let it set. So right off the bat, if you got going at it next year, you'd have to wait for a year like to get it set up, right? So that's why I feel going with a 3-year is beneficial for us. Just that, so the kids will have a place to go. You just can't make it and go. It takes a year to grow and firm up.
Thank you kindly. Any more conversation? Not seeing. Any. 7.3.2 is CR-2022, -15, a lease agreement with Maitland Valley Conservation Authority for the Turnberry Floodplain Conservation Area, Galbraith Park. Do I have a mover? And this is for 3 years. I have Chris moving, I have Paul seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Transfer of parks and trails, again, I believe Vicky can speak to this if she wants, but it's, I think it's just an internal move. So do I have a mover? And Paul moving, a seconder. Trevor seconds. Questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Danita.
Well, yeah, I'm just looking if that's the one I wanted. Yeah, what does it mean for the moving from recreation or from public works to recreation? What does that mean for the maintenance from the shoulders and the roadsides in East Wamanage? If there's people taken away from public works towards recreation?
Vicky, you're still here? Okay.
Through your worship, it actually will not affect that. The grass cutting will remain with Public Works Department for shoulders and for the parkland and things. That was their responsibility before the transfer originally occurred in 2018. They had the equipment to undertake that, and they do all the maintenance on the equipment, so that portion of it will remain. It's, we're only transferring back the responsibilities that were originally transferred in 2018.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, yep, thank you.
Other comments, questions, concerns? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Reeve. I'm, through you, Vicky, and I guess it goes to Jamie as well. I'm, like last year, or this year, there was a bit of a conflict at the park in the campground in Blythe as the timing of the grass cutting, and it did not work very well. So will this move make it more cohesive? Will it make a better job of what we're trying to do with, I'm not wording this very well, but I'm hoping you understand it. You see what I mean? We want to get away from any type of conflict and that workers get the job done, so then rec has no trouble trying to do what they have to do. So that's kind of my thought.
Amen. Go ahead, Vicky. Or, sorry, Jamie.
Through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Palmer. No, the grass cutting should be easier, not easier to get to, but it'll be more efficient this way, as Public Works will no longer be dealing with the flowers, the watering of the flowers, the weed well, no, we are weed eating, but like the small weeds and pruning of those areas, because we're going to be able to not have that on our plates. The grass cutting in the campgrounds or in the parks will be able to get to. Plus, there was just a lot of work and not a lot of guys that we had this past spring. So this will be able to hone in and focus on just the main components Public Works can deal with.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any. I do not believe I have a mover or seconder, do I?
Yes, you do. Your mover is Councillor Heffer and your seconder is Deputy Reeve Sype.
Thank you. All in favor? Carries. Moving on to Blythe Campground Pilot Project Year-End Update. Okay, has anybody got any questions for, this will be Vicky again, if anybody has any questions. Pretty straightforward.
Well, and just
What
to
we need
clarify,
to-
yeah,
yeah.
so there needs to be some direction provided.
So what we need to do is we need to provide direction of what we want to do with this year, next year, whether we want to continue on what we did this year, we want to double the size of it. I want to hear from councilors and how they feel. I think it was a great project. I think it went well. I think it's the second year we've done this. So I'm going to open it up. Go ahead, Anita.
Yes, thank you, Viveli. I would like some explanation from Vicky or some idea how she would see it move forward, and then we can have a discussion about that if that's...
Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Councillor Van Hittersum, It was interesting, I had a conversation this morning with the Dave Cook, the facilities manager there. And one thing he indicated to me was that if we're going to do anything with the campground, he recommended we not buy any additional picnic tables or fire pots. He said at no point, except when there was a large group booking there, were all of the enhanced sites used. And he said the fire pits or fire pots and the picnic tables are not attracting people to the campground. He said that's not really a benefit. He said people certainly are thankful when they're there. He said, but it's not making a difference. He's seen the same level of usage as in the past couple years.
So again, if I could just shout out and say, when you say the last couple of years, we've had this project on the go for the last couple of years. We've taken something that's cost us nothing but money, and we've tried to start to revamp it. And I believe we have the trailers were there quite full quite often. So what's your recommendation moving forward?
Through your worship, we, as indicated in the report, we did increase our revenue at the campground, but it was from group bookings. We had one group in particular that came in, and that was 50 trailers or campers that came in and spent several nights with us, and that really enhanced our revenue. But we had several other bookings as well that were group bookings, and the group bookings tends to be where we're getting that revenue boost.
Vicky, I just think that mic is dying, so you might need to turn it on again.
So my understanding of
Sorry.
that then is this is a successful project and we should keep moving forward. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, thank you. Through you, Reeve. As in the report indicates, the expenses of the park are there regardless of whether there's camping there or not. With the result of what camping we had this year under the pilot project, pretty much cut our expenses in half. Revenue was $30,000. It was $73,500 to cut the grass, which brought the expenses down to $43,553, or else they would have still been back up at the 70. The pilot project, in its initial state, was to see whether the 25 sites could maintain themselves, not the full expenses of the $73,000 to cut the grass at the ballpark and around the skate park and the entire facility, which isn't broken down in any of the structure here as to the whether the project itself was successful. I think my own thoughts were for seeing what was done there, it was successful. And the extra usages from the larger groups that come in were normal for that facility in the previous years before COVID. There was the Airstreamers were coming in, the Camp Ventions was coming in. There was other larger groups that were using the facility because it was a large enough facility that would host them. Through COVID times, they've gone, kind of receded a little bit. So if you were to pull out 25 sites out of all those other sites and to divided it by $73,000, I think that you would see that the camping was exponentially successful. I would have liked to have seen those numbers pulled out as we're talking about the campground specific in this report, and none of that was figures were brought out to us here, but that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Well, those comments from Dave Cook, we have to go with them because we don't know we don't have anything else. Yes, I would like to have seen the figures split out, but it might have been difficult, but anyways, that would be a nice thing to see. But if we were to continue the project, I would not want it to grow, but I could see going another year, only because, and maybe another year beyond, only to help spread out the initial cost of the tables and the fire pits. Like, the more years that those are being used, the cheaper they all get. Like, you get to pan out the, spread out the expense. So it only makes sense to go longer as far as the pilot project for me, but I would not want it to be any larger. The 25 is, to me, is a good number.
Just before I go back to Vicky, Rick, did you want to say anything to this?
No, I thought it was successful as well.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Vicky.
Through you, Your Worship. So I do have data that I can, we've extrapolated from the booking system and things that I can provide. If council would like a more detailed information, I can break it down, per day if we need to go to that extreme, or by month. I do have a lot of the information here, and it's broken down as in, how many regular sites were used, how many regular sites are the sites that were not enhanced. So how many enhanced sites were used, how many of the regular sites were used, how many were tent sites. I can also break down, separate out how many were special, or not special events, but large group bookings and things like that. If council would like to see a more detailed report, we can certainly bring that forward.
Thank you, Vicky. Go ahead, Kevin, and then Trevor.
Thank you. Through your Reeve. Just to go a little further on the comments of the not wanting to go any further in 25 sites. It's a big gray area. I understand that you wouldn't want to go further than the 25 sites. It never was 25 sites. Never has been. There's 400 of them there. It's never been 20. The project was supposed to be for 25 enhanced sites. The project was never managed that way. It started out that they marked out 25 sites for the campground, so they wouldn't, there's a picnic table and a fire pit in 25 sites to try and see whether it was cost effective or not. Never managed that way. You could camp anywhere in that place if you wanted to. There's campers down by the Thrashers entrance. There's campers sometimes up by the Ball Diamonds, back behind Shed 3, up by the arena. They went wherever they wanted to go because there was no one there to facilitate saying, you camp here, you camp there, or this is the only place you can camp. So if to say a comment, say, well, we don't want to get any bigger than 25. So if 30 people come in, we turn 5 of them away, even though we've got 400 sites. I don't. The project was supposed to give us an idea, but it was never fully integrated. We never did get the online booking going. You have to phone in or send an email and they'll email you back, but you can't just go in there, pay with your debit card and find it. It still takes staff time and it's only open during staff. So the parameters of the test were fairly loose. And the picnic tables and the fire pits, I see it makes sense to go over a longer period, but just to give it the augmented, we'll give it 1 more year to pay off the picnic tables. There's been camping there for 55 years. It's never stopped. And they still come in. So if staff and the new council is serious about ending that process, then I think we should vote on ending it. But just to give it another 50 days or 60 days and then have to come back and back and back. Municipalities own this since 2000. It's costing the same amount it'll cost you next year if there's nothing there. Cost you the same amount. So to say whether the project was a success or not, it's an asset that we have. Either we take care of it or we don't. It was never intended to be all over the place, and it was supposed to be a structured way of finding out whether those sites were going to make it go. So, just to say, with these numbers in here for everything, they're skewed. So, that's my comment.
Thank you. I'm going to let Vicky speak to that, and then Trevor, I'll come over to you.
Through you, Your Worship, the challenge that we run into is that we have groups that are returning, or individuals that are returning to the campground year after year, and they do not want to be anywhere else but where they were on the site previously. We offer them a fire pot and a picnic table as an enhanced site. We will move it there. That's what we tried previously, and then we were told, no, we weren't doing it right. So then we designated those 25 sites, we marked them all out back behind the arena there, and we still had people who said they do not want an enhanced site. They want to be out. That's one of the things that they find attractive to the Blythe Campground, is that they can be off in a far corner if they want to be, and not have to be designated to be directly behind the arena. They like having that space and things, and that's why I had the breakdown done so that council could see which ones. I tried to do, it's difficult to break it down for you as to what do you want to see it as? Do you want to see it as I need information from you or guidance from council? Do you want to see it as how many people booked enhanced sites? How many people were intense? How many this? There has never been any clear direction on that. We did take on another measure this year because there were concerns expressed about people coming in late at night and leaving early in the morning. So we worked with Threshers and brought on the camp, I don't know if you call him as parking manager, camping manager for when the Threshers have their event, but he volunteered, and he came in and would check the site early in the morning and in the evening to see if there was anyone that had pulled in. When the campers offered to come or called the township, they were offered enhanced or regular sites. It's their choice. It's their choice whether or not they want to go. And that's one of the difficulties we ran into with it, was some of them did not want to go to that location. Dave Cook told us we were going to have that problem. He told us that up front, that people are used to coming in and parking wherever they want to park, and that it's going to be hard to get everyone into one area if we designate it as the 25 spots. But that's what council wanted, so that's what we did. We designated 25 sites, we marked it out, made sure there was proper separation in between each campsite because of the fire pots, and we marked it out. But unfortunately, people did not want to camp that way. They want to be off by themselves. They don't want to be all in one building like that. It's a large campground. It's a large area, and they could not understand why they couldn't park down and by themselves and why they had to be in that area.
Thank you, Bert.
Again, you can break the information down and go from there.
Thank you very much, Vicki. So it sounds to me, the conversation so far sounds to me that the campsite is viable. It is making more money. We're headed in the right direction. It's just we've got to open it up more, and I don't argue that a bit, that we should be getting more involved with at the county level and what they're doing. I think it's a moneymaker. I just think I don't think there's enough attention been paid to it, but I think there's the energy there and the community wants it done. And what I'm hearing so far, unless somebody tells me different, is that we should continue on with it, whether you call it a pilot project or not. But I mean, it's a campsite. Let's put a little money into it and put gates in it. And anyway, that's Paul's problem next week. Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I hear Councillor Faulkner's concerns in the sense that the pilot project really was very vague in its implementation, and that is not staff's problem. That is council's problem. We were not very clear as to how staff should implement this process. Were we willing to sacrifice to say if somebody wants this to camp on the far end of the, were we going to say no to them? We never were clear to staff that says that. It is a campground. The biggest question that resonates, and as I'm looking at as I'm looking at the new finance director, we've had this conversation before as what does a business plan for that campsite look like to make it financially feasible, and what capital do you need to incorporate in order to do that? And I think we've all heard over the last number of years, it's an all or nothing scenario there. So what does a capital infrastructure plan look like to not make it all or nothing? So that if you have 50 sites that you want, you can turn them on and off at free will. We don't know that because nobody's ever looked at that. These are types of business plan models that need to be evaluated by the next council in order to establish whether this is. Let's be clear, that is valuable land. It's valuable land to the municipality in one way, shape, or form, whether it be a campground, whether it be a house, whatever it is, it's valuable land that we as the municipality own. We don't have very much of it to do that. But we need to also recognize that we have to put a plan in place and be very clear as to what that plan is to look like. Because if we're going to be vague, which we were, we cannot come back 2 years later and complain and be upset about what the staff did or didn't do. And I mean, recognizing the fact that what this municipality has done to try to help it, everybody's trying to do the same things with municipally owned campgrounds. Are we in the municipally owned campground business or not? That's a decision for the next council that has. And I respect their decision on what they make. But all I can tell you right now is financial plans need to be made in order to understand whether it is, and I honestly believe the 25 sites or whatever, yes, we're financially viable based on the expenses you take away for just those 25 sites. But council cannot ignore the fact that we have $50,000 of expenses the minute we turn it on. You can't ignore it. So to say that 25 sites is a great thing and we should move it to 50 or to 100, as Councillor Faulkner said, we've got 400 of them. And if we could have 400 of them filled from March to September, we wouldn't be having this question or this conversation at all. But we have to recognize that our municipality does not have the amenities that these other campgrounds have. Swimming pools, all those other things that are there. But a business plan needs to be established as to what, with support from the Blythe Festival and all the other people that are all the stakeholders in that discussion, what does a viable campground look like? Does it look like 25 sites? Does it look like 100? Or does it look like 400? But once you make that decision, now you take the finance and you figure out the plan. You can't do that. You can't do it the other way.
Councillor Hepburn.
Yes, through you, Reeve. I was the one that was involved in asking for a report. We have it here. And I'm just looking, it was mentioned some about what happens if 30 campers came in for the 25 enhanced sites. Well, I saw in the report, it says 2 to 4 it's averaged 2 to 4 a day during it. I'm just wondering if, should we be looking at it in a different way that is meant as a special event? And maybe the cost that we have to hire our maintenance people to look after it is looking after these special events instead of for these 2 or 3 campers that come in per day, however they do come in, probably a little bit more on the weekend, where you gotta bring people in to clean the washrooms probably once or twice. Would we be better off dollar-wise that it's special events? Because to me, when 50 people came in there for 3 nights, that's a special event. And it looks like that's the one that's making these numbers look a lot better here. That's just my thought, Reeve. I think we should be looking at, is there another way of maybe doing it that would just ease up maybe on some of the workforce for a little bit each day for a couple of campers coming in and go do a full out thing when the special events go on. Just my thought. Thank you, Reeve.
Okay, we beat this one up pretty good. Go ahead, Chris.
This will be a good point, though. We used to camp permanent, and it was costing $2,000 a year. Now, you had more amenities, but this is an opportunity to maybe open up a certain number of sites for permanent, charge $1,500 or whatever, because we're not as full sited as the permanent ones, the other ones would be. But then you could load their sites up with more things. You know, the picnic table, the fire pit, I don't know, maybe a bit of a deck. You know, who knows? Because you can do a lot of things. But if you had, at $1,500, I haven't done the math, but all you need is, 30 people. And then our costs are done. We're taken care of. And then you can kind of grow from there. But it's got to be, we're not in the business. We are not. And so for us, if we want to sort of venture into it because we have the land, then I think it's a slow move. And it could be a prosperous one.
Thank you. Okay, Vicky, one more time. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, and just to comment on that, the one thing is we have to keep in mind is that Threshers has their event there, and they use every inch of that campground. So if we venture into doing some kind of permanent camping, that is going to create issues for their event. And so I don't remember what meeting it was, but Threshers did ask council to involve them in any decisions that are being made regarding the future of the campground, because they were concerned, I think, of what may happen. In listening to council tonight, I'm going to change gears here a little bit, and specifically to the Reeve and what he was asking me, I think there's a couple questions that need to be answered. I think one is, do we continue with the pilot project being expand more sites or create more enhanced sites? My recommendation is no. But I think especially after talking to Dave Cook this morning, I think until we actually utilize all of that, it doesn't matter to me if all 25, if they're all over the place, as long as they're using 25, or the 25 people are using the enhancements, okay? But that's not what was happening. So I don't think we should expand on the enhanced sites. But I think now the question for council is whether or not we're going to continue to allow the overnight camping and the group bookings, or if we're just going to allow group bookings with special events and special events. I think that's really the question here. When we're talking about having individuals coming, I was hoping that we would have more numbers on the overnight campers. I was hoping that number would be higher, but when we're charging for an enhanced site $45 for a day, and we're getting a couple people in on a weekend or during the week or things like that, it affects our staffing on whether or not we have to keep staff on and things to look after things. We have a lot of water leaks down there. We have electrical issues down there, and staff respond to all of those things and deal with them themselves without bringing in contractors and things. They only do that if they have to. So I think that's something that we need to consider, is how to deal with that. I think anytime you bring a group in, or the ball tournaments and things, I think we should be looking at staffing down there because their needs are different and the revenue will offset the wages. But I think the question now for council is, one, do they want to expand it for more sites, the pilot project? Two, I think you need to decide if you want to continue status quo, fine. If you don't want to, then what would you like? Would you like us to allow transient or overnight camping with the group bookings? Or do you want us to just do group bookings?
Mr. McBurney.
Oh.
Your hand up?
Yes, I did, through you, Reed Bailey. Vicky's already mentioned it in regards to thrashers. My comment was going to Councillor Palmer to say that as well, in regards to thrashers for permanent trailers.
It was just a thought.
Oh, no, I was just commenting on it. Vicky beat you to it.
She did. I gotcha.
So council, this one's been beaten up for many, many years, and we've tried a pilot project, and it sounds like we didn't corral the issue down, and the idea of the pilot project was, I think, in the long run, were you going to give up half the spaces to some other thing if we couldn't use them? I'm wondering if I think in this case, I think it would be better if staff brought back 2 or 3 recommendations after hearing everything that council said. I'm not interested in getting rid of the trailer park. I think it's a little gold mine if we operate properly. If we continue to operate it like it's some kind of a sideline in an alley, that's what you're going to get out of it, a sideline in an alley. You need to operate it like a business. Vicki, you've brought up several good ideas of group bookings and stuff like that. We as a councils don't know how to do that. That's not we don't know how. But if you could have a group booking every week through and take 5 years to build it there, then you're making money. Then you've got people coming back. I quite often pushed on and had Mr. Lee come and talk to us about his motocross. At one time, it was kind of a gravy train for the Blythe campground, but somehow there was some kind of a separation there, or whatever happened. It was nothing to do with my time on council. I wouldn't be ready to give up on it yet. I think it's a business, and I think we could run it as a business, and I think if we got involved with the county, when Goderich has something going on, you've got 400 sites right here 15 minutes away. When Exeter or anybody else in Huron County has something going on, we're 15 minutes from 20 minutes from everywhere. Why wouldn't we be trying to sell it that way? I don't have the answers. I was pleased to see that we were using it more with very little effort. So I'm going to throw it back out to council. Kevin, you have your hands up. Could you make a suggestion?
Yes, thank you, Reeve. The pilot project and the number of sites, it's irrelevant because you want as many people come in as you can. What that was meant to do was, because of the infrastructure that's at the camp, you have to turn everything on at once. And as she alluded to, there's electrical problems, there's water problems. With having 400 sites being on all the time and only using a few of them. That was to determine whether separating 25 sites would be cost effective, so that when you open it up, you only had to open up 25 sites, not the whole 400 and worry about 400 leaks. I personally think with the numbers that they're showing up there that it has proven itself. That those 25 sites, if that's all you had and that's all you had to maintain, would cover itself. Going further with pilot projects, I think this pilot project is said that the camping, or showed that the camping has been well received and can maintain an income that would be equal to what it would cost to run those 25 sites. I will make a motion to staff to run it as status quo, is what we've had going on, to relinquish we don't need to buy any more, no any more fire pits, no more tables. That cost has been done for the 25 sites, just to carry on the way it's been down now, with no more enhancements as to the sites, and run it for the way it has been since 2000, since North Huron took over the campground from the Thrashers.
Do we have a seconder? I have Rick McBurney second.
So maybe I'll just read this back just to make sure this is what you're looking for, Councillor Falconer. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report prepared by the Director of Recreation and Community Services dated November 7, 2022 regarding the pilot project at the Blythe Campground for information purposes, and further that Council hereby directs staff to continue to operate the Blythe Campground as operated during the 2022 pilot project. That's, okay, perfect. So then Councillor Falconer is your mover and Councillor McBurney is your seconder.
Just before I call the motion, I just want to mention one other thing too. Without getting in an argument, it costs us $35,000 to cut the grass down in Morris Turnberry and help those guys all out and help everybody out. This is in our yard. We should spend a little money in our yard to keep things going too, and maybe there will be a better and brighter day one day where we can say, have full use of it. I have a motion on the floor. I have a mover and a seconder. All in favor?
Just one, hold on, Reeve.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because if we're saying, because we just had a conversation over the last 20 minutes about issues that were not relayed on to staff, about concerns or how things should be managed. So what I'm hearing is that in a year from now, there should not be any concerns about how the operations of the campground was done. Is that what I'm hearing? You're okay with how it was run in 2020 or 2021? That's the motion I'm hearing. Okay, I just want to make sure that from an argument of what has went on about not putting them here and not putting them there and whatever the case may be, that staff have to understand about what their expectation is. As long as that we're all in agreement what that is, I want to make sure that we are all in agreement.
And we'll have the clerk read back the motion just to confirm.
So again, the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report prepared by the Director of Recreation and Community Services dated November 7th, 2022 regarding the pilot project at the Blythe Campground for information purposes. And further that Council hereby directs staff to continue to operate the Blythe Campground as operated during the 2022 pilot project.
We have a mover and a seconder. We have finished our discussion. Everybody in favor, please raise your hand. And it carries. Thank you. Okay, 7.4, the parking, Public Works and Facilities, which is the parking bylaw. So again, we've had somebody from the public speak out about this at the beginning of the meeting. The staff do need an answer to this. Chris Winter is coming on.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just clarify, because I was not present at the council meeting where this was brought forward previously. So previously there was a traffic and parking bylaw. It was one combined bylaw. Council at that meeting passed the traffic bylaw, but did not pass the parking bylaw. Because you passed the traffic bylaw, you repealed your parking provisions for the municipality effective, I believe it's the end of January. So that's why I just want to make sure everyone's aware that based on passing the traffic bylaw, there will be no parking provisions in the municipality unless a parking bylaw is adopted. Just so everyone is on that same page, because there was 3 readings of the traffic bylaw, it repealed the previous traffic and parking bylaw. So I just wanted to point that out from the outset here.
Thank you very kindly. Okay, I'm going to open up the comments, questions on this one. Did you want to speak to it first, Jamie, or no? Okay, we'll answer questions then. Anybody have any questions for Jamie? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Jamie. I was disappointed that there wasn't enough participation when this came up to the BIAs, and especially the Blythe one. I am totally against this 2-hour thing. I totally understand what Rachel was saying. The festival requires more than 2 hours, period. And something has to be done to allow that during matinees, I guess, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but certain
Go ahead, Jamie.
shows.
Jamie's gonna,
Certain shows, and like we go to watch those plays, and I'm going to be parked illegally, and I don't like it, because I'm going to be, and I tell you, I'll be upset if I get a ticket. We have an opportunity now to extend it, temporarily extend it through a certain period of time, dates, to make this work for the festival. And it bothered me that were not enough people wanting to come, nobody wanted to come to the meeting, apparently, and discuss it.
Jamie, could you give us an answer to that, or your thoughts?
Yes, through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Palmer. Actually, we did receive feedback from both the BIAs for Wingham and for Blythe. And they indicated that the Blythe BIA would prefer an hour and a half, so 90-minute parking timeframes, and the Wingham BIA requested 2-hour parking. So the BIAs did provide a good amount of communication with staff through email correspondence. Unfortunately, no, they didn't provide, because they passed along the surveys to other businesses, but they themselves, as a part of the BIAs for Wingham and Blythe, did provide feedback.
Yeah, follow up.
Yep.
Yeah, it still disgusts me that there's no consideration for the festival. I understand that would be the view of probably all of the storekeeps down Main Street. You know, they could see an hour and a half as being just fine. But again, I'm defending the festival to my dying day regarding this, because they need to be taken care of. Their patrons need to be taken care of, or else it's a moneymaker for the municipality.
So can I just ask this then, the matinees we're talking about, could we have the bylaw, and I need to know when the matinees are, could we have a bylaw saying, well, the matinees are on, that there's a 4-hour parking time lot, and then when the matinees aren't on, and I don't know if it's seasonal, I honestly don't know. I've been to a few plays, but honestly, they were at night. So I'm presuming we're not talking about night, we're just talking about afternoon matinees. And if they're on a Sunday, I don't think anybody's open in Blythe on Sunday, except maybe the ice cream store, which would love the matinee to be on, because people are gonna walk there, or the hot dog store, or the coffee store. So in my mind, on a Sunday, it would be immaterial, but can you explain that to me? What days would be involved in a matinee?
So through Reeve Bailey, to kind of answer both of your questions to Councillor Palmer and yourself, the theater group and also the BIA provide, well, I'm sorry, maybe not the theater group, my apologies, but the Blythe BIA did provide quite the extensive communications with the Public Works Department approximately 2.5 years ago, where they indicated that there was concerns with parking. So there was a joint meeting held with Public Works and the Blythe BIA, where discussions took place, and a big presentation actually did come forward to the council around 2019, end of 2019, early 2020, with increased promotion and education about the Blythe Community Center. In 2020, when I came on board, the Public Works Department was pouring all new sidewalks so that people would be able to get from the Blythe Community Center to the Blythe Festival building, the Memorial Hall. So there was quite a bit of money poured into being able to provide patrons for the Blythe Festival to access the parking lot at the Blythe Community Center because it's not totally utilized all the time. This would provide decreased parking on the main drag to provide the businesses with people to come in and out, fluctuate. As well, we were finding that we were actually getting a lot of complaints from the residents from Blythe that people were parking and blocking their driveways, or people were parking it was congesting, the roads, the side roads that are a little bit narrower were congested due to patrons of the Blythe Festival parking kind of where they could. So a lot of money and time was spent trying to promote the Blythe Community Center as a place to park for matinees and for like any other time. As for when specifically does matinees take place, this summer, I believe there was, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but like 6 matinees?
So in 2023, we are slated to have matinees running 5 to 6 days a week throughout the entire summer from June through September.
But is that like the 10 in the morning?
Doors at Memorial Hall with up to 379 people per show.
Right, even if, okay, I'm not too sure at what time the matinees are, 2 o'clock?
In the afternoon.
So 2 p.m. Sporadically throughout the week. But with that many, if everyone drove individually to go to the theater, there's not enough parking on the main street to accommodate that many people to park there. Therefore, a lot of our side streets were getting full and causing issues with the residents. So back in 2019, council authorized the Public Works Department to place sidewalks, increase signage, as well as, I believe, the parking, the crosswalk as well.
And did that help, Jamie?
Then COVID hit.
Then COVID hit.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. Okay, thank you. Kevin's going to speak now.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. There's several different points of view in play on this parking violation or length of time. One with the store owners, they were, through the BIA, were requesting a shorter time simply because of the 2 hours that people are in at the theater, the parking in front of the stores. There's no room for their customers to park. To come in and get a haircut, they'd have to park at the arena and walk up to. But it's a catch-22. Those people that have come out of the before and after the theater do come and shop in town or go and get to the restaurant and have something to eat. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now we've put in place that we're going to be putting parking half a block away or a full block, small Blythe block away at the old fire hall for parking to alleviate some of the pressures off of Main Street to help. So that will help. Regardless whether you put it at an hour and a half or 4 hours or 2 hours. We still do not have a daily enforcement of that law, regardless of what, so it has no teeth. It's there because we have to have one as municipality. We're not enforcing it. I've never gotten a parking ticket there, ever. So, the length of time, I think, is redundant, unless we're going to have someone walking by and chalking tires.
Okay, I think we're going to get to the point where we need to make a decision. Okay, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, so the municipalities do not need a parking bylaw. They don't need one. Municipalities put one in place to support support all avenues of their business development. Enforcement is fundamentally flawed in small and rural municipalities because in order to facilitate that, they need to hire somebody to drive around the municipality to enforce those laws. Currently, right now, we enforce those laws by complaint only. That's how we enforce. So I can agree with Councillor Faulkner in the sense that whether you make it no time limit or 4 hours, unless somebody's going to complain, it's not going to matter. At this particular point, prior to us splitting out the traffic bylaw from the parking bylaw, there were 2-hour bylaw. It was a 2-hour bylaw both Blythe and in Wingham. I have not heard, other than the Blythe Festival when this come up, any complaint from either ward about the 2-hour bylaw before. So, I mean, if the 2-hour bylaw was not sufficient before, it never resonated with council in the 8 years that I've been on council. And I have to, I recognize that the festival is an important, integral part of Blythe. That is a fact. And unless there's going to be somebody out there calling the bylaw enforcement officer during a matinee, I think we're having a redundant conversation, in my opinion. And I think what the Blythe Festival is doing is to ensure that, their patrons are not ticketed. So they're doing in their best interest for their patrons and the people that are there. But I think unless we have that concern, that we absolutely think that this is going to be a concern from people lining up to call in a complaint for a parking violation during a Blythe Festival theater performance, I don't see the conversation about moving it one way or the other. And if council chooses to move the Blythe parking to 4 hours, they should do the same thing for the town hall theater here in Wingham. It should be equivalent to either way. So, we're not hearing the same issue from the town hall theater and those types of things. They're going to be starting to ramp up their production as well. So, we all have the same issues. So I just think unless we have had a real concern with violators and the municipality is not, I can tell you right now, based on the report that I seen, we ain't making millions on the parking enforcement bylaw.
So would somebody like to put a motion forward?
So you have a draft motion there.
Yeah, I gotta add to the bottom of it though.
Nope.
Nope, okay, can you read the draft motion then?
Yep, so the draft motion, or the recommendation, or recommended motion from the report is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated November 7, 2022 regarding updates to the parking bylaw for information purposes. And further, that council directs staff to submit the parking bylaw to the Ministry of the Attorney General for approval.
Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving. Do I have a seconder? Paul seconds. We have a mover and a seconder. Last chance for comments. Seeing none, I call the motion. All in favor? And it carries. Thank you. Moving on to 7.5.1, the FR-2022-12 Huron County Fire Coordinator's appointment. Pretty straightforward. The Council Township of North Huron hereby receives a report from the Fire Chief dated November 7, 2022 regarding the appointment of the Huron County Fire Coordinator for information purposes. And further, the Council approves the appointment of Deputy Chief Chad Krager as Fire Coordinator for the Huron County Municipal Fire Aid Association. Do I have a mover? Paul moves. Seconder, please. Chris seconds. Conversation. Seeing none, I call the motion. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Correspondence.
Yeah, so maybe if I'll just clarify what's in front of council. So similar to the last regular council meeting where there was a donation request received from the North Huron Community Food Share. So by the November 1st deadline, we've received 4 other requests, so 5 in total. So the recommended motion would be that those be deferred to the incoming council as part of their budget deliberations. So similar to last year, during the first draft of the budget, we'll have a slide that includes the 5 donation requests that are received, and the incoming council can determine which ones they want to support and for how much.
The only thing I don't see on here is the food share for, at the other end of town. Was it not part of this
Like
list?
the,
was last
that,
time.
yeah,
Previous agenda.
that came in previously, and council deferred that one to the incoming council.
Thank you, Connie. Okay, so in that case, do I have a mover? Rick moves, seconder, please. Trevor seconds, last chance for comment. All in favor? Carries. We're down to council reports already. Reeves report. Well, I have to admit, I went back and forth about what to include on this message. This is my final report as the current Reeve of the Township of North Huron. Part of me wants to...
Sure, I understand.
Click your center button there. Yeah, there you go.
Oops. Last 4 years of that. Part of me wants to speak the truth about many hard, challenging, and misunderstood things that happened because I do want them off my chest, and I do want the public to be informed. But the other part of me encourages me to stay strong, positive, and proud, a proud leader that I have been over the last 4 years as I exit this role. Doing this is important to the community. Under my leadership, a lot has been accomplished, and we've served North Huron well for 4 years. For 4 years to come, and some are and some of the things are at the beginning, and will end longer, and some are for our future. I was your Reeve, and some of the issues we dealt with. For the build of the new fireworks department in Blythe, that building's impressive. The new subdivision Blythe is something to be proud of. The new apartment building in Wingham has started. Wow. And even more praiseworthy is the subdivision on the horizon in East Wawanosh. These projects mean more dwellings, which mean more people paying taxes to our extensive services. But just as important, it will help to address the housing shortage, and it will help to turn the labor shortage around. It is important to share that I led North Huron through a worldwide pandemic. I ensured that there were COVID clinics right here in Wingham ward of North Huron. As a leader of this community, I raised the pride flag for the first time and championed that the land claim acknowledgement be read at each council meeting. I know that these two acts are merely putting a Band-Aid on a broken limb, but it's a start. I supported the opening of the Connection Center and for the care for the most vulnerable, the hurting, the hungry, and those that need help. I work to increase awareness of the costs to North Huron because Morris Turnberry has historically not paid their fair share. It is important to state that the cross-border agreement for them was terminated 1 year before I was elected. We have shown them financial records indicating the cost of doing business, and it is related to their community. What I do want to say, that this sitting council member agreed to a contract with them that I have signed, and Morris Turnberry have still not signed it. It's a fair deal. I was hired to make fair deals, not to be the nice neighbor who gives services away, while North Huron taxpayers pay for it. And I cannot say this part enough. We have all the responsibility. I don't know what they're waiting for. Sale of the airport was a wise move. It is running as a vibrant and creative business, and a drawing card instead of costing $100,000 a year to the taxpayers. Shortly, we will have $5 million from the sale to put towards solidifying a strong base, meaning the money needs to be spent in such a way that it creates economic growth, not wasted on basic operational costs. I believe it's our greatest chance for future sustainability. I am saddened that I cannot see more projects all the way through to the end. I chose courage over comfort. I am proud that I did. I did not take baby steps. Leaders are taught that baby steps no longer work in this changing world. I will leave knowing that the work that mattered, and will leave with a good ancestry to many. I will be a good ancestry to many. I want to thank the counselors because we came full circle from a rocky start to the blending of a great team. Always remembering that 7 heads speak and think better than one. Every decision was well thought out, debated, and the majority vote moved it forward or dropped it. Look what we accomplished as a team. I only shared some of the many accomplishments in this message. There are many more. I want to thank our staff, especially Dwayne Evans, our CAO, as I know we could not have achieved so much without his professional and personal ability to see the bigger picture. I am sending a very big thank you to you, Dwayne. As well to Carson Lamb, our clerk, who has his hands full, even on your quietest days. I would never have pushed forward the dreams and directions for sustainability growth without your working with me. Thank you to the BIAs and all the committees, especially your feedback. We listened to you and made our decisions based on your input. Last but not least, I want to thank my family, especially my wife Angela, who never wavers in her devotion to myself, our family, or our community. We're family strong, together forever. Thank you. And I guess I lost my computer here, so it's going to be
Council member reports.
council member reports, please.
Yeah, there's probably not much,
No.
given the committees are all.
Or all gone. Comments by members. Any councilors like to comment? I'll start with Trevor and then go to Paul.
Thank you, Reeve. I want to take this time to extenuate my profound gratitude to the staff, council, and senior management during the more difficult time in my life over the past 6 to 8 weeks. On the passing of my mother. I can honestly say, between my work family and the township over the past 8 years, I really truly believe that we have grown in a sense of family, where we have honest conversations. We don't always see eye to eye, which families never do, but we've been able to work together to get a common goal. And to have senior managers, council coming to, sending me messages, I have to admit, it was very difficult in the sense that I never anticipated how connected my family was to this municipality, and for the most part, most of them don't live in this municipality. So, over the past 8 to 10 weeks, my family yet has lost one, but I have honestly believe that I've grown, and for the ratepayers who have called me and thanked me for my volunteerism and my effort during the election, as well as what I'm doing as a community member. I appreciate all their kind words, and I thank them very much for that. I did want to also take this time, as I was not able to be here at the October 31st meeting, I do sincerely want to congratulate Paul Heffer on becoming the next Reeve of North Huron. I want to congratulate Lonnie Whitfield, Mitch Wright, Rick McBurney, Chris Palmer, Anita Van Hittersum, Kevin Faulkner. They are going to be your next council for the next 4 years. And I truly believe that democracy is the backbone of our society today. And I have said this to each one of these councilors, including the same as I said to the current Reeve when he was elected. I have said the same thing to the incoming Reeve as he stopped by. I'm not going away in this municipality. I'm going to be here. I am going to be included in communities. I might be taking a little bit of a break, but I'm not going anywhere. So if there's things that this municipality wants to ask me, I'm not going to shy away from what those decisions are being made. I will give you my wholehearted answer. You may not like it. However, I'm not going to shy away from giving what I think is an important part of a community. And that is, when somebody asks you your opinion, you give it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, you give it. So again, I just wanted to thank, the current council, the current senior management. I think we do have, this community has had many, many challenges over the past 4 years, and this new council will have existing challenges over the next 4 years. I do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I don't know what I would have done in the last 8 to 10 weeks if I wasn't able to come here and share my opinions about my love for this municipality in the best way I can. So I do want to thank you, Reeve, for your leadership during the past 4 years as well. I know we are all indebted to your, into what you have provided, more than what you've probably signed up for over the past 4 years during the pandemic, as well as we all did. But I am appreciative of what we have been able to accomplish. And again, I want to thank every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, through you, Reeve. Yeah, I'd just like to take this time, just thank the Legion in both respective places here that allowed to get the banners up for our veterans, and just thanking the Public Works. It sure looks impressive, going down the main streets and seeing these portraits of people that fought for our country, and so we can enjoy what we have today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Chris.
Reeve Bailey and Deputy Reeve Sipe, I personally want to thank you for your service to this municipality. As leaders, it's always, it can be a hard road to hoe, and you both held your heads high and persevered. You had a vision, and we all saw this vision, and we succeeded in many, many areas, and it was a good education. I'm sure I can speak for the rest of our council, that it was a good education for all of us. And you men, just want to thank you again, and yeah, don't go far. You might get phone calls.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
I would echo that as well.
What's that?
I would echo it.
Thank you very kindly.
Councillor.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on then to notice of motion bylaws. Bylaw number 91-2022 parking bylaw. Do I have a mover?
Sorry, Reeve, I believe there is a notice of motion there.
So it's under, yours is under other business.
Oh, sorry, other business. Okay, no, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. So bylaw number 91-2022 parking bylaw. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving. Seconder, please. Second time for seconder.
Hands.
Trevor seconds. Thank you. You moved it, he seconded.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so you said Councillor McBurney moved it, so,
That's why I was,
so your mover is Councillor Falconer, and your
can't
seconder is Deputy Reeve Sipe.
I can't finish off the last half hour properly, can I? Okay, all in favor? Carries, thank you. Nice one, Kevin.
starting off the way it ended.
You
Or
got
ended the way it started off.
You got her, buddy. Okay, bylaw number 99-2022, agreement with the WVRH Holding, Inc., Huron Tractor Blythe. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving, Anita seconding. All in favor? Carries.
Councillor Palmer moving,
You're doing good.
and Councillor Van Hittersum seconding.
For those in the audience that don't know, I've got these guys mixed up for 4 years. Okay, let's pay attention, Bern. Fees and charge, bylaw number 100, 2022, fees and charges bylaw 2023. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving. I have Trevor seconding. All in favor? Carries, thank you. bylaw number 101-2022, lease agreement with Maitland Valley Conservation Authority for the Galbraith Park. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving, I have Chris seconding. All in favor? Carries, thank you. Bylaw number 102-2022, childcare and early earning program services agreement. Do I have a mover? I have Anita moving, I have Rick seconding. All in favor? Carries, thank you. Announcements. The inaugural meeting of the 2022-2026 term of council will be held on Monday, November 21st at 2022 at 6 p.m. at the North Huron Town Hall Theater. Other business, request from Deputy Sipes, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby implements the Community Policing Advisory Committee under the Policing Act to support the governance of the OPP service to the township until such a time the Community Safety and Policing Act is enforced. Okay? And that would be at the next council. Do I have a mover?
Well, how are we going with this?
Yes.
Because for the next meeting.
So, yeah, so basically, you can pass this motion here if that is what council desires. Ultimately, the next council decides what boards and committees you want to run.
Okay.
So I guess logistically, what would happen is I would incorporate this motion into a draft, into a report on committees and boards, and the next council will determine which committees and boards you want to run and what appointments to those committees and boards look like. So that's basically how your process looks out or plays out. But that would be at some point in December, you would establish your committees and boards.
So we're comfortable with that? Okay, so did I have a mover and seconder?
No, but you might want to let Deputy Recipe speak to his.
Oh, I apologize.
No problem. No, so again, the reason why I have made this request is because if that request wasn't made, in theory, the clerk would not even provide council with the opportunity for that committee, because the Police Services Act does not require it. So that is the reason why I'm suggesting that until the Police Services Act is amended, that this council might want to have that community liaison committee until such time when that Police Services Act is amended. It's not expected to be amended until sometime in late fall, early winter in 2023. So you may be only looking at 3 or 4 meetings, but I think it's realistic, the fact that, you've got now under a section 5.1 where you've got the entire municipality under this, it might be more readily available to have that conversation as to what that composition of the board that committee looks like, because then you may have to be able to provide certain things back to the detachment commander and those types of things. It gives you an opportunity to have a direct relationship to the detachment commander, which you would not necessarily have under the current 5.1 setup that the board or that the council is elected to go through.
Okay, do I have a mover and seconder?
No, you don't.
We still don't have a mover and seconder.
So-
Rick moves it,
I will second it.
Trevor seconds it. Questions, comments, concerns?
And I recognize that the council may, when this committee comes back in and when the clerk brings that the council may decide that that's not what they are intended. And I'm okay with that. I just think it's important that we make sure it's at least discussed.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, to you, Deputy Reeve Sipe. Is that just for the town of Wingham, these concerns, or the whole township?
No, like in the idea of this community liaison group, it would be for the entire municipality. I can honestly tell you, Councilor McBurney, as you probably are aware, I never looked at it as the Wingham Ward Police Services Board. I looked at it as the North Huron Police Services Board. If Councilor Palmer or Councilor Van Adersum or Councilor Faulkner had a concern about the policing in their area because of how we were serviced by the OPP, I would have been more than happy to come and communicate to the detachment commander about what those issues were, as Councilor Palmer has done that. So I mean, I think it's viable in the sense of it's not a Wingham Ward discussion. It is a municipality as a whole discussion to make sure there is that direct relationship with the detachment commander.
Thank you.
Okay, Okay, we good?
Yes, you do.
I
Your-
do.
Your movers, Counselor McBurney, and your seconders, Deputy Reeves.
All in favor? Carries, thank you.
Thank you, council.
Okay, closed session, we have none, confirmatory bylaw. That the bylaw number 103-2022 being a bylaw to adapt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by the Council of Township of North Huron at the November 7th, 2022 meeting, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover? I have Chris moving, seconder, please. I have Kevin seconding. All in favor? Carries. Okay. Adjournment, that the Council Township of North Huron agree that being no further business before council, the meeting is now adjourned at
7:55 p.m.
7:55 PM. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving. Seconder, please, is Anita. All in favor? Carries. Good night, and thank everyone for such a wonderful 4 years.